and welcome to Masters of the Forge episode 12. I'm Snorre, and with me is...
Adam. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, hello, Adam. Camille isn't here right now. He is busy with girlfriend stuff, so, he had to sit out, but like he told us, he didn't really have any progress to talk about, so he didn't really feel that he was missing out on anything, except making jokes.
Mm-hmm. He's in the episode, though, so don't worry, you'll hear his tones later.
Yes. It's been 2 weeks now, and, Camille didn't have too much to talk about, so he didn't want to be part of this. Actually, he wanted to, but he didn't feel the need to. I haven't had a lot to talk about either, but, Adam always has lots to talk about, so, what have you been doing the last couple of weeks?
All kinds of stuff. So I've been planning the next tournament that we're gonna do. It's gonna be in early December. Right after Thanksgiving.
At the usual location?
Yeah, at the usual location at Grimfoe Games. I'm not sure what the format's going to be. I'm actually thinking about using the Highlander format, which is you can only bring one of anything except troops. And I think it's just an interesting and fun way to play. It's not that I have anything against spam, I don't, but it's just another way to play the game. And 1,500 points. I think 1,500 is definitely the points limit we're going to go with, so that we can get 4 rounds in, and they can be quick games played at, quite honestly, the point limit that the game is play tested at mostly. What do you think about that format, Snorri? Doing just one, you can't take more than one of anything?
I think it's nice. I would have a problem with it myself because I play Death Guard, so I don't usually field a lot of different stuff. It's usually Plague Marines in various shapes and sizes, but from what I understand, you're okay taking troops of... There's like multiples of troops, but you should at least try to avoid taking the same, like rubber stamping 4 units of troops so that they are exactly the same. It's like you should probably have at least some different equipment on them.
Right. The most pure version of this, but like the original version of Highlander format, says that you can't take multiples of a troop until you've taken all the troops that you can. So if you're playing Space Marines and you're playing, let's say, for example, the Black Templars, then you would have to take a unit of tactical marines, a unit of scouts, and a unit of, what are they called?
Acolytes, isn't it?
Whatever they are.
Yeah.
So you'd have to take one of each of those, then you can take multiples. So if you're playing Death Guard and you have Typhus, then you'd have to take a unit of cultists, a unit of just regular Chaos Space Marines, and a unit of Plague Marines before you could move on and take more units of Plague Marines.
Yeah, because cultists and plague zombies aren't any different. It's these technically they are different things because cultists can take shooty weapons, plague zombies can't. But I'm pretty sure that people would have understanding that plague zombies, if you take them, that's your choice to just gimp yourself a little bit.
Right, but if you don't take a lord, that opens up the whatever those guys as troops, the cult troops as troops, then I don't think, I doubt very highly that the format would force you to be like, okay, now you have to take a Khorne Chaos Lord and also Khorne Berserkers. You don't have to do that. But if you can take a troop, you have to take that troop before you can double up. So that's, I'm not sure I'm going to actually do that, but it's interesting. We have a few months to we have like a month and a half to figure that out before we put out the actual announcement.
Yeah, I would say that probably just air the idea with the people who are likely to join. Is like, are you like violently opposed to playing Highlander for a change? And just see if there's like, if anyone just goes completely nuts, then okay, that's one person. But if all of them goes like, no way, then it's a bad idea. Because I'm
So
pretty sure that it would be an interesting challenge because it's a very different way of thinking,
yeah,
and also it's a very different tactical situation on the
yeah.
table when you suddenly have all kinds of different things instead of having like a unified force.
Right. And it's cool in a competitive sense. It's interesting because units that a lot of folks normally say, well, this is a terrible unit. They become good not just because they can't choose anything else, but because your opponent is taking things they can't normally take as well. So like those units suddenly become like, oh, this is good. This is useful against this kind of unit, right? And normally people don't take this kind of unit, but now they have to because it's the only way to get that combat roll on the table. So it's pretty cool. It's really interesting, and I want to do some test games with it first. I know there's a lot of testing going on out there at some of the RTTs and even some of the GTs. So we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see. As long as it's fun, we'll do it. I've been I've been I did the Defensive Haven event, but we have a whole segment on that uh coming up, so I'm not gonna go into that too much. But we had a great time. Thanks to all the guys who came out and played in that. Jason, John, Phil, and James. We had a really good time. They helped do some terrain, and they played in the game, and they kept it, they kept it narratively minded, and it was a good time. It got, we were exhausted by the end, but
I'm pretty sure big games like that usually are quite draining.
right.
But
And
yeah,
then
by the pictures you posted on Facebook, it looked like you had a really good time.
yeah, we really did, and thanks to Steve for kind of being the impetus for all this and putting it all together in a conceptual format, and then kind of handing it off to the community to play with as they will.
And by the sound of, or that's pretty much listening to Steve talk about the event in the same segment later,
Mhm.
we think he also had a blast.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he had a lot of fun.
Yep.
And yeah, it sounds like everybody over there in London had a great time, and congrats to those guys for pulling off a wonderful event.
Yeah.
So I
Yep.
also I also have been painting for my part-time job. I've been doing an army that I've actually always wanted to do, and that is the Black Knights. And I think I talked about this in the last episode it was a thing coming up. So, okay, here's one thing about Grey Knights that I think the listeners might want to know about. They are hard. Like,
What? You mean you don't just dip them?
oh my goodness gracious, they are so hard. They have so many little pieces. There's so many little fiddly bits. Like all the metallic piece, all the like writing and little dangly pieces, and oh my goodness gracious, I all right. So as far as time it goes, okay, there are only, sorry, snoring, there are only like 27 models in this army, and I spent 22 and a half hours on base coats.
Yikes.
Yeah. Yeah, 11 hours to build, 22 and a half hours of base coats. And I'm already 8.5 hours into the first highlight and 4 hours into details and 1.5 hours into basing. It is ridiculous how much effort it takes to work to do these.
I usually do base coating in maybe 2 hours. Building usually takes my 5 6 hours if I'm supposed to do something
Mhm.
similarly sized.
Yeah, it is bad. Like, so I sprayed them black and I washed them with the India ink and alcohol mix. Well, I did a clear coat before I did the India ink mix because I heard it can strip your model. So I did the black and then sprayed it, and then I went through and I painted all the silver. I did a lead belcher on all the parts that are usually gold, and I instead did them in lead belcher, which is a nice dark silver. And then I did the India ink alcohol wash over that, and it and oh yeah, and I also have purple for the guns and the cloth and
Yeah, the
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 stamps for the all the billions and billions of purity seals.
yeah, it was a really interesting color combination.
Mhm.
Not exactly what I would have chosen myself. It was like just hearing the color combination, but seeing them, oh my god, looks really cool.
Thank you so
And
much.
of course, especially the power swords, you have to talk about those.
Yeah, so the power source. So in case I didn't mention it last time, I've always wanted to do Black Knights, and the customer said just go with it. He didn't care what theme I went with, so I sent a picture of Maleficent from Snow White in her dragon form as the inspiration for the army. So it's basically like a black dragon with purple wings, with like the wing, like sinew or whatever, whatever it is between the digits of the wings was purple, and green, sickly green flame. So all of their eyes and their power weapons are green. The base coat, the base coat for the green is warpstone glow, and then dry brush with moot green, and then a very, very, very light dry brush of flash gets yellow over the top of that, just at the tip, of course. Like you have the darker color down towards the base of the power weapon, up to the flash gets yellow at the tip, and
Yeah,
it creates a very sickly, like green color.
yeah, and just looking at the picture, it's basically the power swords start out green towards the hilt and then fade beautifully over to yellow the further you get to towards the tip. It
Mhm.
was a really cool effect. Totally not what I would have expected when you think green and yellow on a sword, but wow.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and I'm actually doing dry brush for the fade, and at first I thought it would be kind of a cop out, and to be honest, I think the texture is nice, and I'm happy with it, and especially considering how many hours I've already put into this. I think that the customer will not look at that and go ew. I think he'll be pleased, or she. I'm not sure who it is, but
Yeah. Post pictures to Facebook. You have
will
to.
do. I
But
will
of
do
course,
that.
if you get permission, of course.
Right. Yeah. I like I said, I usually I try to not post until the customer has it's been shipped to the customer. So I will probably post these about a week or a week and a half after the episode it airs. Sorry, pause here. I had to switch tabs here, buddy. Oh, all right, here we go. So that was a lot of fun. But one quick note about that Drago, that model is terrible. Like I'm not one to crow on and on and on about Finecast. Like there are a lot of nice good things about Finecast, and I'm always the first one to say, well, yeah, at least you don't have wings that weigh 80 pounds, right? But that model is terrible. It is so bad. I had the cleanup on that. I think I still have gating on it somewhere. Like there's some spots where there's gating in the underside of the model that I'm just like I'm just painting that. It's gonna get paint. It's just it is terrible. So there's a warning to you folks out there. You might want to think about like just building your own Drago. I think it would be a lot nicer if you just built your own. Um, I the Escalation League is starting at Grimfoe Games, and I'm not doing it. I'm stepping back, taking a breather, and my buddy Curtis is running it. Thank goodness. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I'm actually thinking about running Sisters of Battle in it if I can get the Titans done this week. I'm gonna make a personal goal to try to get the Titans done by Sunday. I'm not sure if it's gonna happen because I have a lot of writing to do for the campaign and stuff finishing, and for some other stuff, but I'm gonna try to do it. Last but not least, I'm planning for Gen Con. I decided that this year I'm going to, like I promised before, I'm not going to do the GT, even though the rules look awesome. Looks like they're going to be folding the tactical objective cards into it, and they're kind of creating their own tactical objective cards, which is cool. I think I'm still going to skip it. Instead, I actually decided that, actually, Wendy kind of suggested that I do Geek Nation tours again. I was actually thinking about skipping it because, like, last year I did a whole bunch of stuff and I wasn't able to partake really in any of the Geek Nation stuff. And I remembered my oath last year about not doing too much. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let's call it my birthday present. My birthday is in a few days. Actually, I think my birthday is the release day of this episode.
It is.
Yay, happy birthday me.
Yeah, happy birthday you, even though it's not right now, even though it is right now when people are listening to it. Wow.
Brain explode. Yeah, I'm going to have margaritas on lunch, by the way. We're going to a place called Bomber's Burrito Bar in Schenectady, where on your birthday, they give you a giant margarita. So my work friends are taking me there on my birthday, and we're going to have a free margarita, and my wife's bringing a cake, and she's going to drive me home because there's no way I'm going to work after drinking a giant margarita.
Booze Mahal.
Yeah, we don't do that. We don't work. We don't work drunk. That's not good. That is an ill-conceived idea unless it's 1968. So, anyways, what was I talking about? Adepticon, right? So she said, go ahead. We'll make it your birthday present. And I'm gonna do all this stuff, all the Geek Nation stuff, at night, and that should still give me time to hang out with all my international friends during the day, and whatever.
Yeah. I kind of promised myself I wasn't going to talk about this right now, but what the hell, international friends? Yeah, yep, I'm going. Yeah, I was actually thinking of delaying this a little bit, but what's the point really? I've kind of written off Adepticon as one of those, why bother kind of thing. It's over in Chicago, so it's not in California where I prefer to go when I visit the US, and it's in March. So I was like, what kind of interesting stuff is there to do in the US in March? Well, Adepticon apparently. So Adam, what was it you said to me on Facebook? I was at work, and
you should go. Hey, dude, you should go to Adepticon because I need a roommate. I mean, I want to hang out with you.
Yeah, it started out sounding quite questionable, and well, it didn't really sound any less questionable when Adam says he wants to have someone to hang out with. Mm-hmm. But it started swirling around in my head a little bit, and after a little while I was like, okay, so we started to look at prices of different things, and after a little while I was like, yeah, okay, never mind, I'm doing this.
Yeah, and you know what, and the Geek Nation Tours makes it really easy you don't have to do anything. Like, that's the thing. Like, you are treated like you have A plus, like, VIP access to the city, really, and it's really nice. So I don't want to make this a commercial for Geek Nation Tours,
Yeah, because we don't do commercials.
It's not for everyone, but in this case it's going to be helpful for us for what we're going there for.
Yeah, we started looking at the price of the Geek Nation tour package versus doing it ourselves, and the difference wasn't that big. And it's like what you get, just like not just the meals and the hotel and everything, but meeting the different dinners. There's like the guests that are coming to them. It's such a great opportunity. It's kind of stupid to not take advantage of it. And yeah, we did it.
But, I mean, obviously, I don't. If something comes up where like a bunch of the guys are like, we're going out to do this, I have no problem like missing something. But to be honest, we have something to do every night, and we also have lots of industry folks who are going to be at these events, and it's just a great opportunity to meet with them without having to kind of awkwardly walk up to them and ask them politely if you can have a conversation with them. Like, most of these folks are really nice and really kind, and like they're very open to talking, but people in our people like us are very nervous about doing that and bothering people when they're supposed to be like either signing books or stuff like that. It gives, they're there to talk to you, and you can feel a little less what's the word?
You don't intrude so much.
Yeah, you don't feel like you're intruding on them because they're there to talk to you, and that's nice.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was about to say, that you don't feel like you're walking up to them when they're supposed to have fun and enjoy the convention. It goes like, hey, can I take some of your time?
And in a lot of cases, I'm sure that they feel like that is part of the fun. But as people of our ilk kind of feel weird about doing that,
Yep. So yeah.
Yay! I'm glad you're finally out, Snorri.
Yeah, that's it's going to be interesting. So I'm going to be really broke for a couple of months now because I still have to get the hotel room and flight over to Nottingham for the Black Library weekend there, and I have to pay for Geek Nation tours. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting couple of months, but it's going to be worth it, I think.
Yo, I'm so jealous that you're going to that weekender. So tell us about that. Like, what's that all about?
Well, it's basically a whole bunch of people buy tickets to sit there and listen to and have conversations with the Black Library authors. So it's they talk about their books, their projects, their ideas. Whatever they are supposed to talk about, really. And I think that the final list of authors has been published, and it's pretty much all the cool authors I can think of at Black Library, and then some.
Nice. Well, that sounds like an awesome time. And you're going with, who's going to be there with you? Is Carl and
Jason.
Nice. Yeah, that'll be great. Yeah, be sure to take pictures if you guys play games and stuff. I look forward to seeing that and living vicariously through you in London town.
Well, it's not in London, so at least there.
Oh, Nottingham town. Sorry, yeah. Nottingham town.
Yeah.
I guess that's... Do you have anything else, Snorri?
I've been neglecting my hobbying quite hard lately.
But event planning is hobby progress.
Yeah, okay, so purchases are hobby progress, so yeah, technically I've purchased Geek Nation Tour's seat, so
and,
yeah.
Hey, and we've spent at least 4 hours discussing that, so hobby progress achieved.
Yeah, sort of.
So, I guess that's it. We'll be back for our first segment in just a moment.
Dallas-Fort Worth Nerd Night is a community organization that throws tabletop gaming parties for charity. We believe tabletop gamers are uniquely qualified to build better local communities because of the types of relationships built while gaming. If you'd like to learn more about how you can play games and help people with DFW Nerd Night, check out www.dfwnn.org. That's www.dfwnn.org. Thanks.
Well, welcome back, everyone. This is the segment where we talk about our campaign goings on, and I think we have a lot to talk about today. We have with us in the gender-neutral cave, we have Steve from the Overlords fame. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Adam. I really must protest. This is definitely a man cave. Because according to my wife, it smells like man. So there you go.
Wait, our mumble recording booth smells? Really?
Sure it does, right?
It's got that musk.
Maybe someone has invented smell over IP?
Possibly.
Smoke?
Could be, yeah.
Smoip recordings? Well... So stuff went down. Now, before we move on with the Haven coverage, I just wanted to let everybody know about the events of Zorn 4, which is, to recap, a lunar system in the Pikeshi sector. So I rolled a bunch of narrative objectives into the team tournament that we did. And it appears that the Imperium has, in fact, squashed the Chaos Taint on Zorn 4's second moon. Mainly due to Ahriman leaving the forces of Chaos there and not providing any supply lines. Mainly because, Necrons and Orcs and... maniacal cackling in the distance. Ha ha ha, Ahriman.
It's good to see the Imperium finally squashing something, right?
Yeah, well, you know what? Sometimes you got to squash something, right? And sometimes you need the help of. Sometimes you need the help of the Eldar to do it, but.
Exactly, yeah. They always know when to put their foot into the fight, don't they? Just at the right time.
Yeah, just at the right time. So yeah, my buddy Curtis and my buddy John teamed up. John is the Grey Knight player, and Curtis is the Eldar player, and they raffle stomp through the tournament and scoring both competitive and narrative objectives with wild abandon. So at the last game, the Eldar pieced out before the Grey Knights could turn their guns on them. So that's good. That's good for them. So that leaves the Zorn 4 system with one moon for Imperium and the Necron shrine to the Catan. And one moon in being held by the Orcs. And the fuel refinery that orbits the gas giant very close by. It's like it's kind of like the Tabana gas mines from Star Wars.
You did make it sound like an intergalactic gas station, where you can get your kind of attack craft windows squeegees as well.
Yeah, like an Airplane 2.
Yeah.
So that's what happened there. But let's hear about what's happened with Haven.
Yeah,
That
sure.
sounds cool.
Can I start off by saying I made a big disappoint? I promised that I was going to have some cool stuff to talk about this time, but we had sign-ups for gaming day on the Sunday after Steve's big thing in London, and 4 people, including myself, signed up. So I kind of canceled on that one because we need a little bit more people for me to justify going all the way into Oslo. It's kind of expensive. So, yep, I'll have to do that. I'll have to take a rain check.
It's totally okay, Snotty. This is like what I'm here for, because in campaign matters, there's just no way in hell you're a bigger disappointment than I am.
Oh, Camille. Well,
at the moment I'm not participating at all, so I'm kind of playing like the outside commander here and just enjoying your coverage.
That's fine. Well, yeah, and I think, Snorri, that might give you the opportunity to run an aftermath type game or whatever, the next time you just generally get together with those guys, you could just get together with like one of them or three of those fellas, and do like an aftermath type situation or whatever.
Yeah, that's pretty much starting to become the plan. It's I'm going to do something related to, but not so much like hours after kind of action.
So, Steve, I think now we could launch into your events. I think chronologically, both in and out of the game, yours started before mine. So, take it away, man.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. The event itself, the storyline we've been talking about for an age, so I won't bore people too much with a repetition of that, other than to say it was 6:30 in real time in the morning, and I was looking over, I don't know, about 20 foot of, probably more than that actually, more like 30 foot of board, thinking this is going to be full up, hopefully, at some point during the day. With all the kind of scenery laid out, it looked pretty cool. And the Imperial forces were initially set up in their sort of defensive kind of formation, and I kind of, in my mind, I imagined that they knew the Chaos guys were on the way, but they weren't yet over the horizon type of scenario, and they were there, perhaps quaking, waiting for the the kind of hordes to assemble.
That classic scene where the heroes await with their army and they can hear the enemy coming before they see them coming.
Yeah, that's it. The stamp of the kind of the feet, and the kind of the smell of the kind of ozone, where the kind of the kind of little pockets of demons have materialized and things like that. It kind of looked pretty thematic.
Cool.
That's a very Peter Jackson scene you wrote right there. Just looking like our heroes facing the horizon, awaiting the inevitable march of the dark powers. One of them asks if Gandalf thinks that Frodo is still alive, and so on.
Yeah, it did kind of have an epic kind of feel to it, which was pretty cool. And from a kind of mechanic point of view, we had kind of three tables. The first one was the kind of the main route to the cathedral, where there were kind of like office buildings and all that, roads and all that type of stuff. There was a APOC table with very little scenery, so that the toys didn't have too much to worry about. And then we had a Zone Mortalis table, which was the sewers underneath the city. And it was interesting because we made a decision to let the games run at their own pace, so that the turns got out of sync, but it didn't really seem to matter. And when any kind of interaction happened between the tables, it was just an easy job of saying, well, if you come out of the sewers on your chaos turn, on the next chaos turn on the big table, then you kind of materialise there. So that worked quite nicely.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds good. Sorry. I can definitely see where that would be a really good idea, because I kind of had that kind of a problem with one group trying to sync with another group, and having people waiting around. And I think that was probably a really good decision on your part to do it that way.
Yeah, we've at the Overlords, it's probably worth, mentioning that we've run some apocalypse days in the past that were just abject failure in terms of one poor sod would be bombarded by, I want to shoot at your whatever, and being asked by 12 people to make cover saves and all this type of stuff, whilst everyone else was standing there thinking, yeah, I might get another go in a few hours, type of scenario. So we really wanted to avoid that type of feeling, which is why we kind of we went for the kind of 500 point chunk mentality, so everybody had something to do and were like fully engaged throughout the course of the day. So from that side, it was a success, definitely.
That's awesome. And I noticed you had a bunch of other cool special rules too, Steve. That looked really neat. The depth you went in. You had some other like psychic choir powers and stuff that you were using.
Oh yeah. That was a cool add-on as an option, where a team could sort of forgo their normal kind of little pushing psychic powers around the board phase and bring about a more of an apocalyptic style spell, where everyone they stand in a circle holding hands and chanting would be the theme there. Unfortunately, on the day we lost the rules, and I don't think there was ever enough psychers in one place at one time to be able to get the powers off anyway, because they were hunted down pretty quickly.
So did you force these controlling players to stand in the corners holding hands and singing Kumbaya?
I tried to, but they weren't having any of it, because every time they got in the corner, one of them had to be called back because their avatar was destroyed. So we never quite got the choir that we wanted. It was more a 3-part harmony.
Sounds like you had a Vindicara assassin in the background or something. Bam.
There was a number of assassins all over the place.
Yeah, but you know what, that sounded like a really cool idea that could be expanded upon in the future, because that sounds really, really cool for Apocalypse.
I think so, but there were lots of other kind of little bits and pieces that happens. That like with the roads was a cool pre-arranged rule where if you start your run or flat out move and end it on the road, then you get an extra 6 inches. And what that meant was, it's from the Imperium's point of view, the chaos players had a long road to travel to get to the cathedral, but it really felt as if they were getting there quickly. And I think it added to the tension of the day, because there wasn't a lot of just standing back, taking shots and thinking, oh, this is good fun, having some target practice. It was really rapid, the advancement onto the cathedral.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially with that much tanks and infantry involved, that sounds like a very good idea. Mm-hmm. Just in terms of getting the game to where it actually gets fun and exciting.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's a rule from 5th edition, right?
I think it was. Yeah, I can't claim any sort of originality on that. There was a definite Yaldi road rule somewhere, and I just kind of pulled it out of my memory.
There was just something with infantry, or rather, tank vehicles on roads getting the fast rule or something like that. I'm not quite sure about that, but yeah.
But it worked nicely, and I think the big thing during the course of the day in terms of kind of rules was that nobody was really taking it seriously. And I don't mean that in a kind of flippant way, because it seemed everyone was invested in the storyline, but because it wasn't a tournament or competitive, anything that was just a bit dubious was just like, well, it's just either not do it or just roll for it. So there wasn't any big issues. But the thing that really surprised me and I was really glad about is how people got into the spirit of it and were saying, there's no rule for this, but wouldn't it be cool if I could do this? What do you reckon? And we were just like making stuff up on the fly as we were going, adding in like, oh yeah, we'll take a test for that, and that that'll do. Yeah, we can do that. We'll sort that out. So all these kind of little things that added to the fun of the day. It seemed to kind of we were lucky that we got the people that were kind of willing to invest in that. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I hear tell of a commissar riding on the back of a super heavy or something.
Oh yeah. This we had a Yarrick, and there was a fire raptor that had moved, like it literally travelled 12 foot down this table, and wanted to ram into a building and blow this big building up, because this big building was causing the Chaos people a bit of a problem in getting to the cathedral. So what happened was he said, well, I said, how far have you travelled? Expecting like 36 inches, and he went away and went 12 foot. And I said, 12 foot in one go? He said, well, I didn't jink once. I just took all the kind of hits or whatever. I went, oh yeah, so you did definitely travel 12 foot then. And we ruled it would be just like all you needed was a 2+. Which was funny, but before that happened, the Yarrick jumped on top of this fire raptor, and because Yarrick gets like never dies rule, we reckoned he'd get 2 Death or Glories to try and get the last 2 hull points off, and he failed. He then fell to the ground, failed his strength test, and died. But then he got back up again, and just so happened to be right in the middle of a bunch of spawn that then charged him in close combat and like knacked him. So it it was a kind of really funny story that just making up a few kind of little odd things that happened at that point in the game just added to the kind of storytelling of the day, and didn't seem to kind of break the game in any way. So it was fun. It was good.
So Yarick got under the spawn bus, right?
Oh, big time, yeah.
I'm imagining Yarick jumping off the building at the airplane, getting hit in the face by the airplane, bouncing off the side of the building, falling on the ground, and just getting back up and dusting himself off, and then all of a sudden surrounded by spawn.
Exactly. Yeah. We put it down to the Fire Raptor had power wipers, and
and all of the guard was still really inspired for like no reason, like so much inspiration, such courage.
So did it sound like did it feel like one side had the advantage throughout the whole game, or did it swing, or what's your impression of how the balance of power went throughout the day?
Well, the rolling of dice started roughly about 9:30 in the morning, and throughout the kind of the first half of the game, the weight of the kind of battle was really on the Chaos' side, because they were coming at the Imperium, they were moving quick, and they were getting close. So it was definitely backs against the wall type of situation for the Imperium. But then somewhere around about the kind of halfway stage, the Imperiums then started to kind of claw back and was looking at maybe pushing the Chaos lines back a little bit. And it looked like it might go that way. Which was really cool, because then all suddenly it was a different set of tactical decisions for the commanders, and it's probably worth mentioning each side had a commander that would order chunks to go and achieve a certain task, or to go and kill something, take something, or whatever. And what happened then is that eventually there was this kind of big, almost like a stalemate, where two big forces were just kind of pushing up against each other and not much happening. And the Imperiums were phenomenal. I mean, they were outnumbered, and they really held well. They were artillery was going all over the place, and Space Marines were drop podding and deep striking in amongst the Chaos forces to try and kind of pull their attention a little bit, and Ogryns were there manning the kind of defense lines. It was a great effort for the Imperium to hold out for as long as they did. But then there was this kind of little bit in the game where St. Phil's organ was a key part to the defense of Haven, and it kind of generates a shield, like a sanctic shield above the cathedral. Mm-hmm. And at some point, right, the shield went down. They destroyed the organ, and then so the building dropped, which then gave line of sight. The organ got blown up, and then all of a sudden the enemy troops could then deep strike onto the cathedral. So I looked around, and I went for a bit of a walk to see what was going on. I come back, and there were like 80 Chaos troops, all within 6 inches of the statue with melter guns, and it was like it was a race. All the Chaos players wanted to roll their dice first, to be the one to blow up the statue. And
I would be super reluctant to roll those dice. I would be afraid that my famous lack of luck would strike in that very moment. Like, you had 8 melters. How could you not destroy that statue?
Well, it was insane, because I made something like so all these melter guns went off, and there was a load of whiffs, like a load of ones, and then it was like AV-14, so they couldn't get through, and then it come down to the last set of melter guns, because I was like rolling like a demon. I was like rolling 5 up invulns. I think I made like 5 or 6 on the trot. And it was like, and in my mind, it was like, Haven's not going to fall. Haven's not going to fall. This is going to be so awesome. And and I was sorely kind of disappointed, not really disappointed in inverted commas, because I eventually failed enough invuns. The statue went, and there was a big cheer from the Chaos players, because they'd totally desecrated Haven.
Right, but the Haven gave all. Haven gave all, right?
It was a real big effort from the Imperiums to hold out until 6:30 in the evening. So that they held out for a whole day, and they were attacked by all sorts of monstrous things, and they managed to do it, and it was cool. It was really a real good effort for the Imperiums. They bought enough time for the Inquisitor to slink away to his shuttle and say, "I told you so," and and so what could you ask for, right?
Yeah, it's really great. It sounds like when you set up the event, you kind of created these buffer zones of success that didn't necessarily have anything to do with GM fiat, like kind of declaring, okay, now this is happening, now this is happening. Instead, you created situations that or environments where the players themselves could decide what to do about it. So like the shield on the cathedral was a tactical objective that they had to focus on in order to get close to the main objective.
Yeah, exactly. Everything was in the player's hands, and with the way as well with the desechrometer worked it was at the beginning of the day. Haven was 100% pure, and we had a load of mini objectives, a load of statues of sisters, and each one of those was worth 5% of desecration, and we bracketed the desecration in like 10% brackets. So what that meant was if the planet was currently like 81% desecrated, the Imperium could only ever get back to 90%. And when it went down to 79, they could only ever get back to 80. So what the idea was that it was slightly easier for the Chaos Forces to kind of win the game in a traditional sense, but the Imperiums had the opportunity to try and halt the rot, so to speak, to try and keep the planet as pure as it could, and that was really was creating the storyline for future events. How desecrated, and what does that mean for the Imperium?
Yeah, it seems like for now, you can come up with a lot of neat ways of folding Haven Prime into a lot of like cool little campaigns, like treasure hunting, and stuff like that, or vault incursions, and just basic chaos slaying.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you just read Traitor General, I mean, that in itself is an inspiration enough for the type of kill team events that would be really awesome to go and find. Just a piece of St. Phil's finger bone that you could then take back and give it inspiration back to the Bakeshi sector again. That we've, it's dark, but look, we still got this.
Right.
And, symbol of hope. We can give chaos the finger. That's what I was thinking.
So, talk about the Traitor.
The Traitor.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Yeah. So there was a rather, I guess, not exactly coded, but there was a message on Facebook in the Bakeshi system that a traitor had been found, and what had happened was one of the guys was IMing me saying, can he go join the forces of the Imperium and then switch sides? And we thought, you know what, that is exactly the type of role playing that I want to kind of see in this. So he set up as Blood Angels in the sewers. And
typical.
Blood Angels of all people, wow.
Exactly, yeah. So it was 4-on-4 in these kind of Zone Mortalis sewers, but the Chaos, I think the Chaos slightly outnumbered the Imperium maybe by 500 points. So it was a bit of a slight uphill struggle, and then Monk's troops go off, start flaming some demons, and then when the Chaos turn comes round, he then charges his allies. So like charges the Grey Knights and some Deathwing. And now it's more like where it was kind of like 5 versus 4, it was now kind of 6 versus 3. And it was insane. Like there's one of the players there, a great guy called Tony, and the look on his face was like, what has just happened? We're up against it now, and it kind of seemed to like galvanise the Imperial defences. And like Tony had this kind of like one, I think it was the Deathwing guy that was just like heroic for like 3 or 4 kind of whole game turns in close combat. He was just like owning it and keeping the Chaos people from breaking out of the sewers into the city.
I may die this day, but I'm not going out without a fight.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it felt like, and like. It would be easy to say that you had the main board and then sub games, but it really didn't feel like that because the fight that the Imperium put up in the sewers was epic. The way they held out until almost the end of the day, and all that got through was like a unit of Spawn. I think that's the only thing that managed to break through in the end. It was just,
that ended up being Yarrick. Was that? Tell me, it was the one that ended up being Yarrick's doom.
I wished, but unfortunately, it was another set of Spawns.
There's plenty of Spawn to go around.
Yeah, it's Spawn for everyone.
Nice.
So it was just incredible, and of course on the big table there was like Thunderhawks and Titans and Imperial Knights and Bane Blades and tank companies, going around knocking chunks off of each other. I think the day had a bit of everything for anyone really who wanted to come along, and the chunk system meant that when your chunk was killed, you could either bring something else on or play it again or drop in and drop out, and it was cool. And not to forget, we had to bring and buy outside. There was about kind of 8 people with tables selling stuff, so it felt more like a real big event rather than just a gaming day. It was really good.
How many shopping bags of stuff did John bring home from the bring and buy?
I'm not too sure. I know he got goodies in multiples. I was very busy on the day in my role as GM,
Master Overseer,
something along those lines. Yeah, but I mean, I personally come away with a load of goodies. So yeah,
I'm sure that we'll find out exactly how much he went in the hole in the next episode of the Overlords.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I would thought so. Yeah.
I noticed you had some generals set up. Like, were they giving orders and like kind of directing things for their teams, or how did that work out?
Okay, so yeah, we had the idea was, and what was important to me is we had a storyline to write, and it wasn't predefined, but I thought it was important that everybody went home with a story that they can tell their mates and say this happened or this was cool, that they were involved in some way. But as I mentioned earlier, I didn't want people twiddling their thumbs. I didn't want people to feel like they're being left out of the game in any way. So the idea of having the 2 generals was to control the pace of the game, so that if it looked like the Imperium were doing too well, we could up the kind of chaos chunk coming in next turn to try and replicate, sort of balance it out a little bit, and also to give people missions. So it would be we need deep strikers. Who's got any deep strikers? Right, okay, you 2. You need to land here, and you need to make sure that you take out that assassin, or you need to take out that demon. The idea is that they would be able to almost put chunks against each other. Because if you imagine you've got 10,000 points of troops on a table, it could become really messy really quickly. So the kind of general aim was to say, well, if we think of it, instead of 10,000 points against 10,000, what if it was this chunk trying to do something against that chunk? And it kind of meant that the game flowed a little quicker, and we got through something like 7 turns.
That's great. I really like that idea, because like you said, it's so much easier to see a chunk versus chunk instead of seeing army versus army.
Or unit. Okay, I need all these units. Instead, you can actually have people build their chunks to be cohesive, which is where the Unbound really helps and stuff like that. Because then you can say, okay, I have an armored tank company that I can bring to the table. Where do you want me?
Yeah, exactly.
Now that sounds like amazingly interactive on the part of you as the organizers of the event. May I ask how your ratio in terms of people calling things like that to like just box standard regular player was?
You mean in terms of like
how many people were game mastering effectively?
Oh right, okay.
Like
so I was kind of taking the role of I did roll some dice, but largely I was there just to kind of answer the questions and keep the kind of things running smoothly that way. And we had one Chaos General and one Imperial General. So there was kind of three people kind of doing the kind of controlling that side of things, and there was I reckon there must have been on the big table at one point something like 25 people in total, and there was about 6 people on the sewers and another 4 or 5 people on the apocalypse table, maybe even a bit more on the apocalypse. So it was probably something like 10 to 1.
Wow. Okay, that's tough.
Yeah. So I think that this is a really good point for folks who are interested in running an apocalypse event. The most successful apocalypse events I've ever been to have been ones where there's some kind of mechanic where one person is a general for the side for each side. So whether you formalize it or you keep it loose, it still helps people from thinking of themselves as individual players with an opinion, which is good. It's that I don't want to sound too totalitarian about this, but like if it stops people from thinking, what am I going to do in this game to blow stuff up or have an effect? It changes it to like more of a teamwork type of effect, where they look to the general to make the final decision, and instead of saying I want to do this, I have to do this, I think this is the way to go, instead they're compelled to kind of just give suggestions, but when the general just makes the final call and everybody just goes with it. Because for the most part, contrary to popular belief, 40k players are generally a very mature group of people who are capable of following instructions, and it saves time, it saves problems, it saves a lot of things to have somebody just kind of taking the reins of a faction on the table.
Yeah, definitely. It's not even like relinquishing any sort of control over your own personal models or your play style, because it's a case of you've got a mission to do, and that mission might be something to destroy another chunk or hold the line or take a building, and how you do that's up to you. You know, how you move your troops and your order of play. So you weren't really giving away much. Mm-hmm. And I just, having been on apocalypse tables before, when the game's finished and you think to yourself, oh, I'm glad that's over. And when you look back, you think, oh, well, I killed a couple of Lehman Russ maybe, or helped towards the Bane Blade. I'd much rather say I held the sewers for 6 turns against being outnumbered. To me, that's a far better thing to walk away from with.
Yeah. I had this. I hadn't. My general gave me an order to do this thing. He needed this thing to happen, and I either executed it or this interesting thing happened to thwart me. And I think that really helps. You can even formalize it. My buddy John ran a successful couple of events where he's got a whole system of orders that the generals can give, and there's like victory points based on whether those orders were successfully carried out, almost like a tactical objective type thing before there were tactical objectives. It was interesting.
That's cool. See, that's exactly the type of thing that helps with the practical side of trying to work in a big multiplayer environment, because it's really difficult, and the thought of someone having a bad day, I would have been gutted, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you brought up another good point, Steve, is the person running the event, don't bring armies. Don't play unless you've got like some weird like reinforcements, or you're running the environment like you were. Like, you don't want to bring an army, because you want it. You're going to have so many people talking to you at once.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think it is actually a rather good idea to like bring your collection or bring an army, but don't expect to play it, because I think it's a great idea to have like a backup intervention squad of models, or somebody to just land something to just land to people if they if you find an unbalance on the field.
Exactly.
But don't expect to play it like as a player yourself.
There was a bit in the game right at the very end where the Chaos were right on putting their toes on hallowed ground, and so it's worth mentioning as well. There's two stipulations. All models have got to be painted, and that was achieved, and that looks spectacular in itself, just having no kind of plastic showing.
Yeah.
And the second one was only Imperium or Chaos. I.e. that included like demons, traitors, and CSM, etc. So right towards the end of the game, it was looking grim. The Imperiums were really sort of up against it, and I pulled out Inquisitor Steve with a unit of Banshees and some Dire Avengers.
Wow.
I just couldn't resist adding the meddling Eldar Corsairs to the kind of table, and it was kind of fun. Because it was like, hold on a sec, they really Eldar. Yeah. I was thinking, when you're the GM, you can do what you want.
You can do whatever the hell you want. Exactly.
Did you get flirty with the Banshees?
Oh yeah, they were there. Cocking their leg a little bit. Waggling their hips. They steamed into a bunch of demons, into spawn. In fact, again, the spawn from the sewers, and the spawn from the sewers gave them a bit of a kicking. They didn't last too long.
Those guys again.
Yeah, the spawn from the sewers were amazing, and but I think though that there's some pictures on Facebook you'll be able to see, and it's on ISLitH for sure. There was Kieran. We had this big building that was like 4 stories tall, right? And my wife embroidered a Haven flag that was about halfway down.
Awesome, by the way.
Right.
So
it was cool. So he said, right. So this building is like, I don't know, the equivalent of something like 12 inches tall, probably even taller. But for gaming purposes, it was 4 lots of 3 inches in terms of getting up. So he got his soul grinder, and it was hanging halfway up the building off the flag, just there. Because we thought, you know what? Yeah, I know that's not a rule, but we're going to go for it. Cause that looks awesome.
Yeah.
And the scary thing was there was this Wicker Man model, right? That
Oh
Kieran
yeah,
bought,
I've seen that. That was confusing, but beautiful.
Yeah, you had like a giant stuffy guy.
Yeah, it was. And what happened is that I never saw it move, right? So I was just kind of floating around the tables, enjoying the atmosphere, chatting to people, getting my kind of bring and buy fix on. And I'd look round and it'd be somewhere else on the table, and it was just moving up. And it kind of felt like the kind of some sort of Doctor Who episode where this monster just, like, the Weeping Angels. But regardless, at the end, when St. Phil got blown to smithereens, they replaced it with the Wicker Man. So that was pretty cool. But...
So did you have a guard commander that remotely looked like Nicolas Cage?
we should have done for sure. I that was an oversight, and that would have just capped off the day perfectly.
But you definitely could say that this campaign day, spawned a lot of great tales.
Oh my.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of imagination going on there, and a lot of things that happened on the day. So it leads nicely into just more campaign events in the future. So it achieved everything I wanted it to achieve. The storyline was progressed, and there was a definite ending rather than a wishy-washy, nothing, draw type of scenario. So that was pretty awesome.
And you know what, Steve? Thank you for completely ignoring Camille's horrible pun. You are a good man, and I like having you on.
My pun shields were at full strength, so I felt a slight little ripple in my chair, but I survived it.
So how's the smell?
Yeah, the smell's not so great, but I'm still there.
All right. So getting back to a point you made before, because I didn't want to interrupt you, but I find that really impressive. One of the things that turned me off from a lot of in-store apocalypse games was something you just addressed. that was horrible allied constellations, just to balance sides and be inclusive and everything. And I totally see how this is something that must happen in a store, or just in a smaller gaming environment where you just don't have the luxury of putting up that much chaos themed and imperial themed forces. But I just think it's great that you have the local community to assemble such a game. And the other point is, I'm sorry, but I'm a very visual player, and I'm just gonna say it straight out. Every Apocalypse game I've seen, in the Flash, in my past wargaming experience, just looked like crap, because it was never even remotely half all painted. And that is another thing I find very, very impressive about what you are describing here. And I checked out some pictures, but I definitely want to see more of those. And I'm gonna go net hunting to find them, because I think I would be a lot more turned on by Apocalypse games if they were as a rule, more thematic, and B, if there was a remote chance that I could organize or find an entirely painted one in my local area.
Yeah, I did feel a bit. Initially I felt a bit kind of I don't know what the word is, a bit of a bitch or a diva.
Rigorous.
Stamping my feet that only Imperium and Chaos can play, and that only everything's got to be painted. But we're in a fortunate situation where a lot of us have quite big collections. So. As a way of being inclusive, it was, well, look, don't worry, if you can't get stuff painted, you haven't got Imperial or Chaos, turn up anyway, and we'll sort you out some chunks to play with.
That's amazing.
So there was always that kind of sort of a backfill there for people that wanted to come and play, and felt as if they were being excluded in any way. That we made it quite clear that we were there to help.
Fantastic, good job.
Interested in the offbeat world of 40K? Is your bits box full of 20-year-old space elves? Have you ever searched for something out of production 40K on eBay? Well, hold on to your zotes and head over to Corsair Radio. It covers the full scope of the hobby, homebrew rules, fluff, campaigns, oddball models, and more. From Terra to the Eye of Terror, visit us at corsairradio.blogspot.com. That's corsairradio.blogspot.com.
So, my Haven event started about 3 or 4 hours, well, more like 5 hours after Steve's event started.
And just so happens, doesn't it, that the time difference between the Haven capital and the Manufactorum is about 3 or 4 hours as well.
Nice. It's like a miracle.
Yeah, that's right. It's cool.
So yeah, as Steve just mentioned, it was, well, and as we've talked about before, our event was in the Manufactorum district of Haven, and the way I decided to run it was an escalation event of 750, 1,000, and 1,500. We had 4 people come to that, plus me, so I didn't play really. But since we had 2 Imperium players and 2 Chaos players, I decided, instead of having to either have 2 people play each other twice, or have, for some reason, Imperium players fighting Imperium players and Chaos players fighting Chaos players, I decided to have the last game, be a doubles, which was almost like a little 3,000 point mini Apocalypse game.
That's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah, thanks. So what I did with this one was I brought all my Mechanicum terrain from home, and we took all the Mechanicum-y terrain that we had in the store. And I asked the guys, hey, would you, since we've had no time to do this, I brought my paints, would you guys mind just quickly, in an hour and a half before lunch, assembly lining all this old armor cast terrain and getting it looking nice, and then after lunch starting games? And they agreed, and it was awesome. Like, we pounded out like 50 or more like 35, somewhere around 35 to 50 pieces of terrain in an hour and a half.
That's impressive.
Incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are little. They're like little pieces, like fuel lines and stuff like that. But it was really cool. I put 2 guys on silver dry brushing. I put 2 guys on copper pipe painting, and then I started washing black. But then I'm like, oh wait, I don't have a dull coat spray to put over before the wash, and it was just ruining everything. So I didn't do that. So yeah, so we put up the terrain. I set it up narratively in 2 4x4 boards. All the pipelines were Promethium relay or Promethium pipes from the fortifications, and I used the fog terrain that we came up with for not antagonists, right?
No, that was Damnos.
Damnos, you're right. Yeah, the fog train from Damnos, and what I did was I took a bunch of heavyweight plasticard and just cut it into fog pieces and glued it on top of PVC I-beams, and that seemed to work really nice for that, actually. And for the first one, I just had guys put 4 down. Take turns putting 4 of them down. And it kind of was like the fog of morning with all the like steam and stuff escaping from the manufactorum bits. And for the second game, I actually had a big tank for each table. Both tables had like one big tank, and I said that the tank was malfunctioning due to combat. So it was the generator, so it generated fog templates throughout the game. And in the last game, I just strung fog across the entire 4 foot by 8 foot table, and
so it was basically Stephen King's The Mist.
Yeah, pretty much. Like the Imperium came out of the mist and started attacking the chaos. It was really awesome. All right, so the game was the Blood Ravens and the Grey Knights, which the Grey Knights were hot off their successes at Zorn 4, and versus Ahriman and the Traitor Guard. So this is where Ahriman went after escaping Zorn, which is probably why the Grey Knights were chasing them. I'm not sure if you wrote any Traitor Guard into your story, Steve, but I assume that these guys were just kind of proselytized when Ahriman showed up, and they all kind of just joined up with them rather than being tortured to death or whatever.
Yeah, we had plenty of Traitor Guards. We had a lot of switching of sides on the day to make things balance. So, cool. Run-of-the-mill cultists, bit of worship in here, a bit of S&M, that type of thing. Nothing too heavy. Don't
you love guard players for that? It's like, I need more chaos. Guard player, come here.
I know, right? They are the multi-tool of 40k, aren't they? They are the Swiss Army knife of gaming.
Yeah,
they can play with they play with anybody. Like,
they can. I want to have a Tau group. They can be. Yeah, sure. Well, the good thing is that they're basically just baseline humans, and those can basically occur on all sides. I mean, apart from let's say Dark Eldar or something, but you'd find a reason for that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So,
slaves.
The Imperium, the first group of mission, the first mission was a 750 points. It was just a lot of the Imperium won a whole lot of early victories where they're just kind of running around grabbing resources, cleansing little areas, but the thing is, chaos sort of was baiting them out further and further and stretching their lines so that they could fight on their own terms. So even though the Imperium landed in force, Chaos was able to kind of even out the battles in the terrain. Now I had a great moment in the second game, in the 1,000-point game. And this is the game where Ahriman finally took the field, right? So in the first game, he didn't have the points to bring Ahriman, but it actually made sense that Ahriman wouldn't show up right at the beginning when the beachhead was being taken. It's too much of a risk for him. But when he finally did take the field, he was somehow empowered with the warp even more than he usually is, because very early in the battle, a venerated Dread Knight pilot suffered from the perils of the warp when his connection to the warp was severed, and it promptly disappeared in a puff of atoms, just due to Ahriman's presence. Dude rolled a 1 and then rolled a 1 on Perils of the Warp and then an 11 for his leadership check.
Oh, sweet.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive.
Fully unwounded Dread Knight.
Wow.
You couldn't make that up, could you? It's just perfect, right?
It's not over. 10 minutes later, the librarian is down to 1 wound. And then rolls a 3 on the barrels and dies.
Did he disappear in a cloud of atoms too?
No, the way I described that was that he reached into the warp to grab the power he needed to fuel his fell energies and found a demon instead. Demon jumps out of the warp, eats him, and joins the forces of chaos on the battlefield.
Wow.
I was kind of expecting that you were going to say, and he reaches into the warp and pulls Ahriman out of a hat.
No.
Ahriman was
only
on the
Ahriman's
field.
fist, and then he gets like bitch slapped through the warp. Like, come on, boy.
I choose you. Yeah, so that was rough. And in game 3, which is the team game, they take the field, and I had been chatting with Steve over chat. Chatting with Steve over chat. That's good. On Facebook, and I found out the results of Haven. So, and I knew that a couple of the guys had brought some awesome Nurgle super heavies. Like one of your guys like did a lot of work. Well, a lot of them did a lot of work, but one guy did a lot of work on his Chaos Nurgle forces, right? Was that Trevor? No, Trevor did bring a Warhound, but it was somebody else.
Yeah, there was 2 big Nurgle plague towers there, which Roy built a while back, and he had there's Ultramarine, I think it is, that's been kind of grabbed by tentacles and pulled into the machine to fuel it in some way.
Nice. So we have a player in our store who just started playing 40K, and he bought this plague tower off the internet for a reasonable price, but it was still kind of expensive. And all the big events we do, we're like, plague tower is not quite yet on the allowed list for the tournament. And he's like, I want to use it. Can I use my plague tower? Can I everything we do? Can I use my plague tower? Can I use my plague tower? And like for friendly games, we're like, yeah, go ahead, bro, whatever. But in this case, he's like, guys, you want to use my plague tower? Because he couldn't come to the event. He's like, do you want to use my plague tower? I'm like, no, we don't need to use your plague tower. They go, all right. And after he left, I'm like, you know what? Yeah. Reinforcements from Haven Primus.
Awesome.
What is the city called?
Just Haven City.
Haven City, yeah. Reinforcements from Haven City. And when I posted the picture on Facebook and I tagged him, he was excited.
Isn't that a tad bit cruel, though? Guy waiting for what sounds like months to use his plague tower in a narrative event, and then he cannot attend and has to land it out to you. I mean, come on.
I didn't use it as a real plague tower, though. I said it would have been too much. I gave it to him as a Bane Blade. and I give him the Bane Blade and an extra Demon Prince to show the events of the previous turn, and also the Plague Tower to show the results of the Haven event in London. To make up for this, my buddy John, who plays the Grey Knights, I've done this before in narrative games where I'll start taking out the Star Eagles, and he'll be like, "Oh, what's it gonna happen?" What's gonna happen? Because sometimes I'll just attack the enemy, but sometimes I'll just split the Star Eagles up and attack him with half of them, and then somebody else with the other half. So
they're like, they're not only purple, they not only got the purple suits, they also behave like the Joker of the 40K universe, right?
Yeah, he's got a little concerned over there, and I'm like, he's like, they're gonna just fight for us, right? I'm like, yeah, this time they're just gonna fight for you. He's like, okay, good. So on turn 2, some First Company deep strike in and start shooting Melta at the Bane Blade Plague Tower, and also some Plasma Armon squad, but they don't really do much. The great thing is on turn 3, the Storm Raven lands. The Librarian jumps out and promptly perils and rolls a 1 and then a 12 on his leadership check, and Armon eats him too.
Wow.
It's really not...
He had a field day.
Yeah, it's really not the Grey Knight's day that day.
No, well, that was the Star Eagles Librarian.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
In the previous campaign, I guess that the psychics were kind of mystically high fiving each other, and yeah. Now look what happens. You know what I mean? You kind of
yeah, like I was like super impressed. In the Grey Knight Librarian did paralyze himself to death, but that was after he had 1 wound left, and so
wow,
there were four perils deaths in these 2 games.
On the Imperial side, all of it. Like, you have like the Grey Knights and the Blood Ravens, like 2 of the poster boys in terms of psychers among Space Marines, and then this stuff happens. That's just amazing.
And it was really thematic, right? Like our buddy Jason, who helps us with sound stuff sometimes, he has this Blood Ravens force, and we have James, who loves Tzeentch and has this Chaos Space Marine Ahriman force, and that just works. It works perfectly, and we had the Grey Knights, who are like, all right, we're going to show up now because things are getting real. And we have the PDF or the Imperial Guard, whatever, who have been turned to the forces of darkness. So it all really worked out, and at the end of the day, the forces of chaos completely overran the Imperium. The game ended on on turn 5, with a lot of Grey Knights left on the table, and the Blood Ravens in close combat, and all the Star Eagles dead. So I basically figured that ending best fitted a tactical retreat by the Grey Knights. The remaining honored brothers were teleported back to their starship, because what's the point at this point? The whole planet is gone.
There you see the psychic shockwave of Saint Phil getting his bones blown up sent a backlash across the time zone, and
that's right.
And then they kind of had to retreat. That's what it was.
That makes complete sense. So I thought that this really cool kind of like this really shows you that the things that happen on the table, you don't have to make them happen. Things will happen, and you can just kind of weave the story from that.
I think that is the best way, isn't it? Is let it happen organically, and then you get a really great outcome most of the time.
Well, and then there's those times when you're really glad if you have some, prefabricated ideas at your disposal, because it's one of those 5% off days where like nothing that makes remotely sense happens on the table at all.
Yeah, and then you've got the safety net of the warp did it, right? And if it doesn't make sense, the warp did it. There you go.
Yeah. Amazing.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, particularly in when it comes to psychic powers.
So it sounds like poor old Haven has had a bit of a rough time lately, and there was also another battle in the Southern Hemisphere apparently as well that didn't go too well for the Imperium. So it seems that at least kind of the 3 big points on Haven have totally had a bad hair day.
I think it all really coincides. I think it all really coincides well. I think we can go from here and kind of, I don't know. Haven is probably. What do you think? Is Haven going to be more like a launching point for further incursions into the sector?
I think so. I think Haven is lost because the kind of background to it is not a densely populated place. It's all kind of like farmland and almost like in Stargate. Every civilization they appear to, they're like peasants with donkeys and share plows and all that type of stuff. It's kind of Haven is supposed to be a little bit backward. It's supposed to be a simplistic life, and I don't think that once the kind of big population centers have fallen, there's much else. There's no resistance left in the planet, so this is definitely in the hands of chaos and a great kind of jumping off point to start looking elsewhere.
Yeah. So this event was a lot of fun. Thanks for all the hard work you did, Steve, and happy birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday,
Thank you very
Steve.
much. Yes.
How many people can say that it could invite how many people to play 40K on their birthday?
Yeah, exactly. There must have been about 50 people there. It was around about that. It was a lovely, lovely day, and I can't thank people enough really for contributing to it. It was a special one.
All right, awesome. Well, is there anything else you guys want to add before we move on?
Can't think of anything.
All right, we'll be right back.
Are you looking for a good hobby blog? Are you in need of a tutorial? Maybe you just want some inspiration to help you get started. Well, look no further than the 40K Hobbyist. Drew is a 40K hobby veteran with more than a decade of GW hobby experience under his belt. Follow one man's journey through the hobby as he dabbles in new experiences such as Forge World Titans, building terrain tables, starting new Space Marine chapters, and much, much more. Stop in for modeling tips, tutorials, bits theory discussions, and just to see some darn cool models. If you have any questions, you can always email him, leave a comment on his blog, or reach him through Facebook. He's always willing to do whatever he can to help expand the hobby and make you feel the best painter that you can be. Stop in and check out the 40K Hobbyist at 40khobbyist.blogspot.com. That's 40khobbyist.blogspot.com, or find him on Facebook.
Now, before we close out this episode, we are going to give you a bit of a teaser for the next one, which will be about the fallen heroes of the Warhammer 40,000 universe.
We have so many lost heroes in the 41st millennium, don't we, Snorre? It's very sad.
Every now and then, some model doesn't sell, or some model is just totally overpowered, or, whatever Games Workshop uses as an excuse to cut something from a codex.
They don't have a model for it.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
So
sometimes they do have a model for it. And today's teaser, does have a model, but they still cut him.
Yeah,
I'm very
probably.
sad.
Yeah, it's sad that they cut him, but they probably didn't cut him because he had a model. It was just a really old and ugly model. if you ask me. Most people just scratch built him anyway.
I think it was just. I think that it's just that the British are anti-American. I think that's it. I think that's what it was. America. Sly Marbo. How great you were. You were a good little character. Very fun on the field. Very interesting to bring to a game.
Yeah, there's nothing like, whoops, a large pie plate.
So we're gonna start a new series of episodes about like bringing to life characters who were lost, and we're gonna tease this one with Sly Marbo, we're gonna tell you a little bit about his background and then give you new rules to play on the tabletop if you wanna bring him back. Obviously, there's nothing stopping you from using the old rules. Remember that, everybody. Even though GW didn't put it in the book, for the most part, a lot of these lost characters are perfectly fine to play in the current edition, as long as your opponent is okay with it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Are you crying?
Yes. It's not the fact that I just drank 3 cups of coffee and am burping. They are tears. They're tears.
Let's just give our listeners a little example here. An acquaintance of mine who plays Eldar was still in, I think it was 5th edition. It was like the end of 5th edition. He was still playing an Eldar character from the old, I think, 3rd edition Eldar Codex. Mm-hmm. Completely broken and everything. It was so broken OP kind of thing that it was kind of painful, but he played it very fluffy and that was fine. But usually if you go to a gaming store, you might have a problem.
Mm-hmm. So Sly Marbo is the character we're going to use as our little teaser here today. Marbo is an intimidating legend in the Imperial Guard, and the Catachan jungle fighters in particular. It's rumored that Marbo joined the Catachan Imperial Guard with his 9 brothers, all members of the same regiment, and all of whom perished in the field, all except Marbo himself, who returned from the operation with the enemy commander's severed head. Marbo is a cold and distant man with little to say. He lets his actions do the talking.
Sly Marbo has been referred to as a one-man army, but is most well known for being an expert marksman and camouflage master. He is a shadow in the dark who stalks his prey with a ruthless efficiency, striking from the shadows and bleeding back into them without a trace except the stinking refuse of his victims.
And Marbo he's equipped with a deadly Ripper pistol and Envenom Blade, both of which are especially designed not only to penetrate the thick hides of most deadly beasts, but also the most formidable armor. He's also a fatalistic man, unafraid of dying in the service of the Imperial Guard, and as such also equips himself with a deadly and dangerous demolition charge, which he throws, crippling and confusing the enemy before launching himself at them.
As much as he may be a fatalistic man, he just can't die, apparently. Mm-hmm. He keeps surviving no matter what happens.
Yeah. and they keep on making sequels.
Yeah, one worse than the other until they got to the 4th one, which was actually not too bad.
So, on the tabletop, I've always thought that Marbo is cool. But I've also kind of always thought that, well, why, I think it would be really cool if there could be a more generic version of this character that you can use in your games. So for that reason, I came up with the Imperial Commando for 25 points. There will not be a On Your Tabletop for episode 12, but there will definitely be an On Your Tabletop PDF for episode 13.
An Imperial Commando is an elite warrior who works alone in the field, serving a similar purpose to a member of the Officio Assassinorum, but without an assassin's grueling training or wild fanaticism. Commandos are quite different in their mindset. An Imperial Commando is an independent loner with an ever-unfulfilled grudge or even a death wish. They are usually from Death Worlds or are one of a handful of survivors from a catastrophic mission. Commandos are haunted by the experiences of their troubled past.
Yes. So imagine pretty much any action hero.
Yeah, and I would say that they are pretty much the lone wolf version of an Imperial Guard.
Right. Yeah, it's not like where you take two independent characters and put them together as a buddy cop movie. It's more like the super loner who has a distant look in his eyes because of all the horrors that he's seen. So the bog standard Imperial Commando is weapon skill and ballistic skill 5 because he's super elite and the veteran of many different campaigns. Strength 3, toughness 3, 1 wound, initiative 3, 2 attacks base, leadership 9, and a 5+ armor save. Now, the Marbo version of the Imperial Commando is weapon skill 5, ballistic skill 6, because he is an expert marksman, strength 4, toughness 4, he's a BA, 3 wounds, 4 initiative instead of 3, he's quick, 3 attacks instead of 2, 10 leadership instead of 9, but he still has just the regular 5+ armor save because he's just a regular. To be honest, he doesn't wear himself down with or weigh himself down with heavy armor. The Commandos War Gear is the same as for almost any other Imperial Guard trooper, with the exception that he adds a las pistol to his accompaniment, so he gets the extra attack in close combat. He also has the frag and the crack grenades and the las gun.
His special rules are as follows: Stealth, I Work Alone, Deep Strike, Ambush, Fade Away, and Worst Nightmare, which is Marbo only. I Work Alone means that this character can neither join nor be joined by a unit, including an independent character. Ambush means that this character doesn't scatter, nor does he take any dangerous terrain test when it deep strikes. They also may only be hit by a natural roll of 6 in any phase of the first or second turn. So they're really annoying to try to remove from the table once they get in there. Note that this does mean that templates, blasts, and other attacks which automatically hit still affect the target as normal. In addition, this character enjoys a +2 initiative on their first turn of a close combat, including initiative tests for sweeping advance.
So he really, this character just, boo, surprise!
Yeah. And I guess that the hand grenades and flamers are like, he's in the general area over there, so chuck some stuff over there and hope we hit something.
Exactly.
Next up is Fade Away. If at the end of the controlling player's turn, this character is not engaged in close combat and is within 3 inches of a piece of terrain, including fortifications and wrecked vehicles, then they may be removed from the table and placed into ongoing reserves, deep striking on the controlling player's next turn. Wow. So, yeah, that is actually quite nasty.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Now, this guy, for the regular version of this, he's only 25 point. He's only like this 25 point, like 1 wound character, though. It's highly unlikely he'll still be alive by the end of it. But
Marbo, on the other hand, probably will pop up here and there.
Yeah, he's kind of a BA. So tell us about Marbo's special rule.
Marbo has the special rule Worst Nightmare, which means that Marbo has the Fear special rule. If an opponent is immune to the Fear effect, they are still affected, but instead of reducing their skills to 1, they are instead reduced by 2.
Yeah, so they're like, if you have a really good weapon skill, you're not like completely ruined by the fact that he's got the Fear special rule if you're fearless. So you can upgrade the commando in a lot of ways. I wanted this to be a character that can be modified and create like a very unique individual for you to use in your games. So you can upgrade them to have a demolition charge for nominal point value. They can replace their las gun with either a sniper rifle or a stalker pattern bolter. They can also replace their close combat weapon with either a power weapon, a power fist, or an heirloom weapon. So an heirloom weapon is 30 points. It's a power weapon which has been with the commando for as long as he can remember. It's a treasure from his past, likely a weapon which once belonged to a beloved family member, or even looted from the world of a dreaded enemy. Basically, it's just a power weapon that gives you hatred. So the story you're telling is kind of like the possibility of this commando going back to that world and fight, and finally fighting the enemy who they lost the battle 2 years ago, or an ancient enemy of their house or something like that. You can also upgrade to Sly Marbo for 60 points. He gets a demolition charge. He replaces his las pistol with a ripper pistol and replaces his close combat weapon with an envenomed blade. The ripper pistol is a very simple weapon. It's strength X, AP2, sniper, and pistol. So it's another one of those, crazy sniper pistols that just tear through you. It's only one shot, but it should help give you a little bit of an edge before you go into combat. The Envenom Blade is doused with very rare poisons from Catachan itself. Strength user AP2, poison 2+. For gargantuan monstrous creatures, the poison is instead 4+. Which is a little different from the main rules where it says that poisons only work on a 6+ on gargantuan monstrous creatures. This poison is designed to fight gargantuan monstrous creatures on Catachan. But that's Marbo. I hope you all enjoy using him in your games, and I hope you're looking forward to hearing more about some of the lost characters of the 41st millennium in episode 13.
Indeed. So, I think that's pretty much it. Let's wrap up.
Yeah.
ISLitH, life in the hobby. ISLitH, life in the hobby. Narrative gaming is so much fun. That's the way it ought to be done. ISLitH, life in the hobby. ISLitH.blogspot.com.
Hey, Masters of the Forge listeners, are you looking to expand your Warhammer 40,000 gaming group?
Do you want to start a 40k club in your area?
Do you want the people you attract to be like-minded mofos?
Do you want to advertise your YouTube channel?
Or even attract more subscribers to your hobby blog or online community?
Then what better way than to advertise on the Masters of the Forge podcast?
All we ask of you is that you email us at mastersoftheforge@gmail.com or message us on Facebook with a full text of your advertisement, including the region in which you live and any contact information people can use to get a hold of you.
We will have one of our many tech servitors read your advertisement on the air. We promise not to make fun of you.
Though we can't always predict the actions of our servitors, you really can't find good help these days.
No, you can't.
With that, I think we are pretty much done.
Yes, that's it. I'm tired. I need to paint Black Knights. I need to finish this up. So I say we're done. Boom.
Yep. Camille is back to, since we're recording this right after the intro, Camille is still busy talking to his girlfriend. So,
Talking
yeah.
dulcet tones. Get in the chopper!
I don't think that's what he's going to tell his girlfriend, but we'll find out next time.
Yeah, we'll find out next time. Until then, please check us out on facebook.com/Masters of the Forge.
Or our website, mastersoftheforge.com. where you can find our PDFs and all kinds of game-related materials.
And please rate us on iTunes. 5s are nice. Comments are nice. We really appreciate those. It helps get our name out there, and when people do searches on iTunes for our podcast. Also, be sure to check out the Overlords YouTube channel, where you can find Inquisitor Steve's ISLitH episodes.
Yeah, that is Inquisitor Steve, Life in the Hobby.
Yes. So, I guess with that, until next time, keep playing the game the way you want.
This podcast is protected by the Creative Commons Attribution, No Derivatives, Non-Commercial International License. More information about this license and contact information if you have any requests can be found at our blog, mastersoftheforge.com. The music used in this podcast was made by Parad of the duo Sublevel 3. The track is used with his permission.
Yeah, that will not see the light of day.
No, that would not see the light of day. Right.
All right. So, are you guys ready? Well, we just recorded this, so Camille has plenty of material if he wants to destroy us politically.
You mean Snodder?
Yeah, whatever. You all look the same to me.
Mainland European.
We're not dressed in stars and stripes, so we're just all evil people.
You're all the same to me, man, with your weak chins and your pasty faces.
Oh, great.
All right, I'm gonna start it off, okay?
Yeah, do that.
Oh, sorry. Please edit that out. That's gross.
Star Trek Attack Wing.
Star Trek Attack Wing, motherfucker.
Fart.
Fart? Did you just say fart?
Yeah, I just said fart.
Yep. Sorry, Steve. That's an outtake for you.
Excellent. I love it. We don't have outtakes on the Overlord. We just call that regular content. So
nice.
It's nice to be part of one. Thank you, guys.
All right. So